Part 30. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 305. I made a mistake just now, change it? I still say the same thing. Zhang Shui and I are fine. Liao Hui stared at Zhou Xiangping firmly. Although I don't know what is written in the letter in your hand, I hope you give me the power to read letters, and the power to verify. Zhou Xiangping stared at him disappointedly. Are you guilty, or do you want to beat him up? Chapter 291. Little 4, how long have we known each other? Liao Hui stared at Zhou Xiangping with a rare serious expression. I don't want to answer your question. Zhou Xiangping turned her head aside, unwilling to meet Liao Hui's eyes. Why don't you want to look at me? You are not sure about your doubts. You are afraid that looking at me will soften your heart, aren't you? Liao Hui sighed softly. I admit that I am a bit indecisive, but I absolutely do not. What do you think of the character of daring to act but not acting? Zhou Xiangping curled her mouth, but said nothing. What is the letter in my pocket? Please show me first. Liao Hui stretched out his hand. During this time, my mind is really in a mess with work and family matters. If you still have a little bit of trust in me, just give me the letter. Don't worry, I will never tear up the evidence, nor will I swallow it, let alone play tricks. I just want to see what is written on it, and then recall, or we'll find a clue. Xiao Si, in front of the whole family, what little tricks can I make, right? Zhou Mikang looked at Zhou Xiangping. Give it to him. Zhou Xiangping moved her hand. He twisted his head awkwardly. Knowing that she agreed to take the letter by himself, Liao Hui reached out and pulled the letter from her hand. After opening a line, the veins on his forehead bulged. Little 4. When did you find this letter? Snored. What answered him was a voice in his nasal cavity. Xiao Si, I didn't write this letter. Snored. Liao Hui had no choice but to stand beside Zhou Xiangping, with the letter spread out in front of her. At first glance, this handwriting is indeed quite similar to my handwriting, but if you look closely, is this how I wrote it? There are people next to the tree heart. And here, these small details, the other party did not imitate in place, and if you look more carefully, you will find that this person deliberately wants to get rid of some of his habits, but he hasn't changed completely. Look at this word, it is a bit like what I wrote. Right? And here, Xiao Si, if you still don't believe me after reading this, then I will be really disappointed in you. What about disappointment? Zhou Xiangping rolled his eyes at him. Tell me, what about disappointment? I can't do anything. I knew that my wife didn't care about me anymore. Liao Hui hurriedly smiled flatteringly. Punish him as you say. I said something wrong. Zhou Xiangping stared at him coldly. Who wrote this? Do you see it? Not sure. What do you mean not sure? You don't want her to do this, do you? You have been classmates for so many years. Are you not sure? Zhou Xiangping stared at him. You actually let her put the letter in your trouser pocket. Liao Hui, how do you explain this? Liao Hui frowned and began to think hard. I did meet her once during this period, but she didn't go to me, but to the director of our commune. Then, at noon, the three of us ate together. At that time, she was sitting with the director, and I was sitting opposite her. So, she really didn't have a chance to put a letter on me. Xiao Si, you also know that I am a sloppy person. I never take out my clothes pockets, otherwise, I wouldn't let you find out, right? Are you telling me how much she knows you, and how much I don't know you? Zhou Xiangping snorted coldly. When she came to me, tell me that I don't know you enough after all these years, it's not good for you. Now that my family has encountered such a thing, I am even more unworthy of you. Now, you also come to tell me that I don't know you well enough, only she knows you best. Sure enough, it turns out that you are really a perfect match. Liao Hui, you know that when I was at your house, why didn't you take this come out? It's not that I'm playing tricks on you, nor that I deliberately waited until I came to my house to settle accounts with you, but was forced by your mother. That day, she went to talk to me at home, and it was your mother who agreed. Your mother also deliberately took my grandparents out for a walk, leaving me and her alone at home. Every time in front of you and my grandparents, your mother is so considerate to me. However, whenever you are not at home, she is not her. You just asked me how many years we have known each other. Liao Hui, I have known your mother since I met you, but I didn't know until today. What kind of person is your mother? In the past, your mother treated me the same as everyone else, but since this incident happened to our family, she has changed. I won't believe it. Maybe, I still feel that it is a fault of me being locked up, deliberately finding fault, so I can only wait until I get back to my own home, and then tell this matter. At least, I will not be locked up again. One day, you will be imprisoned for a month to try. You don't know what kind of personality I am. If you imprison me for a month, you simply want to drive me crazy. Do you know how much I hope you will let me out secretly? It's not that I won't go back anymore, but, while everyone is not at home, take me to see how my family is doing. Every time I beg you, you put up all kinds of reasons to prevent me from going out, as if I could blow up the earth if I go out. In your eyes, am I so ignorant? The more she talked, the more angry she became. At the back, Zhou Xiangping cried and said, wiping tears and snot all over Liao Hui's body. Originally, the Zhou family and others who were very dissatisfied with the Liao family could not help but smile wryly when they saw this scene. However, for Liao Hui's mother, Cai Hongying did such a thing, which was really beyond their expectations. The two families have been dating for so many years, and they really don't know that Cai Hongying is such a duplicity person. I'll go find her. Lin Yangkai was so angry that she walked out. Zhou Jingping grabbed her and said, don't worry about this matter, just sort it out before you settle it. Now go and quarrel with her to see how Xiao Xiang gets along with Zai Wai. But she's too bullying, isn't she? Lin Yangkai frowned. I think our family has nothing to do to the Liao family. This time they locked Xiao Xiang up, and I didn't intend to say anything. He was thinking of himself, and besides, with Xiaoxiang's character, it's better to stay at home at this time than to get angry with us. But what's the matter with her doing this? If I really thought Zhang Shui was good, I would have married Zhang Shui in the first place. Why did I marry our family Xiao Xiang? Mom, I can't blame her for this. It turned out that she liked Zhang Shui, but Liao Hui liked me. Zhou Xiangping slapped his head violently. I understand why every time Zhang Shui goes to Liao Hui, mother-in-law, she would talk about it in front of me. I always thought she was complaining for me, and I was so grateful to her. It turned out that she was deliberately letting me know about it, making me jealous. We divorce, she can marry her favorite daughter-in-law. Before Zhou Xiangping could finish speaking, Liao Hui ran out in a gust of wind. Go back and find his mother to settle the score. Zhou Jiping spread his hands and looked at the fourth sister. Xiao Xiang, what are you going to do? How to do what? Zhou Xiangping was stunned. Sister, what do I want to do? You and Liao Hui, what are you going to do? Zhou Jiping sighed. If you love Liao Hui and want to live a good life with him, no matter how horrible his mother is, you have to endure it. If you don't love him anymore, forget it. I don't need to talk about this assumption. You can come back to make troubles, and you still don't know what to do. It means that you never thought of breaking up with him. Then, I will warn you, this matter, give your mother-in-law a step back, and be more magnanimous, so that Liao Hui will appreciate you. Silly boy, you need a little bit to win Liao Hui's heart. Come to yourself, understand? I don't quite understand. Zhou Xiangping looked at Zhou Mikang, third brother, do you understand? Why should I understand? Zhou Mikang frowned. You don't understand either, Zhou Xiangping laughed. the third brother is the most stupid in this regard. If the third brother understands and I don't understand, then it means that this matter is really troublesome. Jo Mikang snorted, turned, and went to the kitchen. Tisk tisk, third brother is going to the kitchen. Jo Xiangping stared at the boss. See, this is love. A man who never goes near the kitchen even ran to the kitchen. Tisk tisk, when will Liao Hui also? If you love me like this, I am content. Everyone looked at her with black lines, and really didn't know what to say. Who was crying miserably just now? Who was bullied by her mother-in-law? But in the blink of an eye, how did it become like this? Not to mention the men, the ladies present, Lin Yangkaiu, MRS Zhou and Zhou Jiping said that they didn't understand her mind. Zhou Xiangping smiled embarrassingly. Actually, I'm not that sad. During this period of time, I was locked up. At first, Liao Hui deliberately asked for leave to go home to accompany me. Later, he was suspended and stayed at home all the time. His grandpa wouldn't let me go out. He agreed with him on the surface, but afterwards, he always tried every means to make me happy, but what the hum did was true. In the limited few times when he was away, his mother really did that. It can be seen that his mother really wants to divorce me and remarry a favorite one who can help the Liao family's daughter-in-law go home. If I don't give her some color, she will really think I'm a fool. Who said Jo Xiangping was straightforward? First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 306. The first update has arrived, and there is another update. The code is almost 2000. I will continue to struggle. Are you kidding me? Zhou Jiping rubbed his sister's head angrily and amusedly. Looks like I have to be more careful in the future, lest you sell me and count the money for you. I can't help it, Zhou Xiangping sighed. My mother-in-law is too good at pretending. If I don't expose her this time, I don't know how much I will suffer from her in the future. Lin Yangkai looked at her daughter worriedly. Have you ever thought about it? Now that Liao Hui is angry, he will go back to find his mother to settle the score, but when he thinks about it later, he must blame you. Mom. Zhou Xiangping stared at her mother with wide eyes, with an expression of disbelief on her face. These words actually came from your mouth. Did I hear it right? Oh, I'm the one who spoiled you. Lin Yangkai touched her daughter's head with annoyed expression. Think about it, why does Cai Hongying like Zhang Shui but not you? Mom, isn't it? Sister, pinch me, ouch. Mom, what are you doing with such strength? Zhou Xiangping stared at Lin Yangkai bitterly after being pinched. Are you still my real mother? Looks like I really took it lightly. Lin Yangkai made a gesture to pinch her again, scaring Zhou Xiangping to run behind MRS Zhou. Grandma, what's wrong with my mother? We haven't seen each other for a month, why has she changed completely? What nonsense are you talking about? Zhou Jingping glared at his daughter, then looked at his wife apologetically. Yang Kaiu, you have suffered. I will find justice for you. What's the matter? What's the matter? Zhou Xiangping ran up to Zhou Jingping in one step, grabbing his arm. Hastily said, who is bullying my mother? Dad, tell me, I will deal with him. Everyone has black lines. Sure enough, this is the real Xia Xiangping. Kitchen. Zhou Mikang skillfully stir-fried vegetables, while Chu Xia stood watching with surprise on his face. Liang Xiaohong and Yu Tao hid out when he came in, and they didn't know if they wanted to watch the excitement, or to leave space for the young couple. You know how to cook? Then why did you roll out the dumpling wrapper like that yesterday? Chu Xia swallowed unconsciously as the aroma of the vegetables overflowed, feeling a little embarrassed, grabbing the tea mug to drink. I'm thirsty. Are you thirsty or hungry? Zhou Mikang asked without looking back. Can't you be kinder? Chu Xia curled his mouth. This person. If you don't provoke her for a while, you will feel uncomfortable all over, and you are so much older than her, despise him. We used to train, and all we brought was compressed food. After eating for a long time, our mouth was bland. Later, we thought of a way to carry a small pot on our back. When we were camping, we dug some wild vegetables and fried them to reconcile them. Jo Mikang said. I froze for a while. Only then did Chu Xia understand that Jo Mikang was answering why she knew how to cook. This person is really good at explaining things so vaguely. Don't you take a cooking class? Chu Xia asked curiously. Scattered training in units of classes, no cooking classes. Oh, I see. You were angry just now when I said you didn't roll the skin well? So you made fun of me on purpose? Right, Chu Xia turned the question back. Yeah, as soon as you mentioned dumpling wrappers, I thought of you bullying me with Jingxia. Can you be happy? Just after cooking a dish, Jo Mikang wiped his greasy hand on Chu Xia's red cheeks. Stand back a little, and be careful not to splash oil on your body. I hate it. Chu Xia gave him a white look, and went to wash his face with his little hands. In his heart, he was not really angry. Just now, the second aunt and sister-in-law said that this was the first time they saw Jo Mikang enter the kitchen. If you don't like it, I believe he would not do this, and these small intimate actions are done by a person who likes you but doesn't dislike you very much. It is quite interesting. Or, is this the rhythm of love? Chu Xia was washing his face and pondering. When he came out of the bathroom, he happened to see Liao Hui dragging a middle-aged woman in hastily. After hesitating, she hurried into the kitchen and reported to Jo Mikang. Liao Hui brought his mother over. And Jo Mikang's hands didn't stop. Do you want to go out? Chu Xia's little hand stretched forward, then retracted. I can also fry this dish, but the taste may not be guaranteed. Lin Chuxia. I hope that one day you are willing to learn how to cook. It's for me to eat. Do you understand? Chu Xia blinked and blinked her big eyes. Some understand, and some don't seem to understand. When you understand, it means that you are in love with me, you know. Jo Mikang put the last dish on the plate, stretched his oily hand forward, so frightened that Chu Xia hurriedly squatted on the ground with his head in his arms. Gentlemen, move, don't move your mouth. Of course, it's best not to move at all. What a mess, I told you to get out of the way. I want to go out. Jo Mikang shook his head and walked out swaggeringly. You. Chu Xia thought for a while, and then walked out. Speaking of which, Zhou Xiangping was quite interesting to her, and she was also very displeased with the way the Liao family did it. It was just that her status as a newlywed mother really didn't allow her to get involved with this kind of thing. Cai Hongying was dragged here by her son so forcibly. Of course she felt that her face was very dull. The point is, when her son dragged her here, her father-in-law, mother-in-law and husband were all there. No one stopped her, and no one followed her. She came over to apologize to the Zhou family, which made her even more unhappy. After entering the door, she kept her head down and said nothing. No matter what Liao Hui said, she kept silent. After a stalemate for a while, Zhou Xiangping waved her hand generously. Liao Hui, don't embarrass Mom. It's probably because my daughter-in-law didn't do well, which made Mom angry and wanted to change your daughter-in-law. Mothers always love their sons, so of course I like to find a woman for my son who only cares about her son. In this respect, I am indeed not as good as Zhang Shui. However, I have always had such a personality since I was a child, and I have never pretended to be in front of you. Since you chose me in the first place, you have to accept everything about me, right? How about this? I'll stay at my mother's house for the time being. When the knot in my mother's heart is untied, when will I go back to Liao's house? If you think it's better to change a wife, go for it, I have no problem. What did you say? Liao Hui glared at her. I'll stay with you, he said, looking at Cai Hongying, who had been hanging her head silently. Mom, you just said that Xiaoxi wronged you, that's why I pulled you over to confront her, but your current behavior has basically told me the real answer. Forget it, I won't ask, you go home. If you live in Joe's house, you are not my son. After Cai Hongying finished speaking, she turned and left. Wait, Zhou Xiangping pushed Liao Hui, you can go back with mom, don't worry, as long as you don't give up on me, I won't give up on you, I just need time to adjust. No, I'm here with you. Cai Hongying turned around abruptly, and stared at Zhou Xiangping with burning eyes. Little si, I really misjudged you. I always thought that you were a carefree and straightforward child, but your performance today really made me feel so embarrassed. Eye-opening. This matter can obviously be discussed at home, why did you spread it to such a large extent? When the Zhou family was not rehabilitated, why didn't you say it? If you say you are a child who has no plans, who will believe it? Just because she's careless doesn't mean she's stupid. If she says something in our house, this matter will be covered up immediately, and you will pat your chest to promise that you won't do anything to hurt her in the future. However, when my grandpa and dad are not at home later, you will probably have to do some tricks again. She wants a solution once and for all. Mom, shouldn't you reflect on it? I raised your son for nothing. Cai Hongying left this time without looking back. Thank you. Zhou Xiangping sniffed and said again, Liao Hui, thank you. Liao Hui stared at her with a serious expression. Just because I help you, doesn't mean I think your actions are right. We are husband and wife, how can you not trust me so much? Zhou Xiangping's lips moved, but she didn't say anything. Indeed, if she believed him, she wouldn't look for this opportunity to talk again. As you said, I have known your character for a long time. Now that I am married to you, I have fully accepted your strengths and weaknesses. If I like a woman who loves me so much that I have no self or no will choose you. The first thing about this is that you are not confident. If you doubt it, just ask me directly. Do you think I am the kind of character who lies and hides? Anyway, your performance is quite disappointing to me. Okay, you two, talk slowly by yourself for a while. Now, let's eat first. Mrs. Zhou got up and pushed Liao Hui while talking, to save face for grandma. Eat first, okay. The two of them sat at the table awkwardly, and the others gathered around. Zhou Mikang poked his head out from the kitchen and said, serve the dishes. He only glanced at the back just now, and dragged Chu Xia back to the kitchen. Is it a muddled account, or a muddled account that can't be intervened in? He can see that his Xiaoxi is definitely not a master who can suffer, just like Cai Hongying, he is really not his opponent. He. Almost everyone who came into the kitchen to serve food would giggle a few times when they saw Chu Xia, and was a little taken aback. Chu Xia touched his face in confusion. Could there be ashes? Ha ha ha. This was a good time. The original he directly evolved into haha. She went to the bathroom, stood in front of the mirror, and saw circles printed on her cheeks and forehead. The round black fingerprints were just painted by her, and she directly drew a circle to connect the 3 black marks. Zhou Mikang, a certain Xia howled and ran out. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 307. The second watch arrives. Xiaomi, did you really cook this dish? This is the nth time Lin Yangqiu asked his son uncertainly. Zhou Mikang frowned impatiently. It was fried in early summer. No, Chu Xia waved her hands again and again. Mom, I can't take the credit for this. At most, I helped arrange the dishes. Otherwise, I really didn't help much. Not bad. Mr. Zhou glanced at Zhou Mikang, with a faint smile on his lips. It's a good habit to know how to love your wife. Zhou Jingping also laughed. I didn't expect that Xiaomi's craftsmanship is not bad, and it's not messy, hee hee. Everyone. Is this a compliment or a derogation? Lin Yangkai gave him a dissatisfied look. Oh, what, you are so old, and I have never seen you cook for me. Compared with your son, don't you think you should hang yourself with a rope? Look at you, you're still jealous with your daughter-in-law. Zhou Jingping picked up chopsticks and scrambled eggs with chives and put them in Lin Yangkai's bowl. You like this, eat more. Who is jealous of your daughter-in-law? I think you are not motivated. Lin Yangkai looked at Chu Xia. Daughter-in-law Xiaomi, don't listen to your father's nonsense, I don't mean what he said. Chu Xia nodded again and again. I know, I know. Ms. Zhou turned her head to look at Mr. Zhou. Mr. Zhou hurriedly brought vegetables to the old lady. Almost at the same time, Zhou Gangping, Zhou Zikang, and Liao Hui also rushed to pick up food for their significant other. Because of this little episode, the originally somewhat discordant atmosphere finally eased down. After breakfast, Zhou Xiangping and Liao Hui were driven back to Liao's house. Of course Zhou Xiangping was not happy about it. She really wants to go back to live with Zhou's family. When will her mother-in-law think about it? When will she go back? What a pity. No one supported her decision, including Lin Yangkai and Zhou Jiping, who thought her approach was a good solution to the problem. Cai Hongying's behavior is certainly annoying, but parents have no choice. Liao Hui's ability to bring his mother to Zhou's house and say those words is enough to show Zhou Xiangping's position in his heart, so. After seeing his sincerity, the Zhou family naturally wouldn't let him be in a dilemma. When the young couple came home, Cai Hongying was sulking on the sofa. Seeing them enter the door, his eyes sparkled and his face turned to the side. Mr. Liao and Ms. Liao were also there. Seeing Liao Hui and Zhou Xiangping coming back together, his eyes lit up, and then, Mr. Liao got up and went out. Grandpa, what are you doing? Liao Hui shouted behind him. Look for old man Zhou. Apologize to him. Cai Hongying's face froze all of a sudden. When the father-in-law said this, it was clear that he wanted to slap her in the face severely, but isn't she doing that for this family? After the Zhou family had an accident, the father-in-law locked his daughter-in-law at home. She was not allowed to go out, and told them to take turns to accompany her. It is said to accompany, but in fact it is to watch. She felt. The father-in-law didn't want the affairs of the Zhou family to affect her family, and she got the news from her mother's family that someone wanted to kill the Zhou family completely. She was dubious at first, but later, the Zhou family was kicked out of the old house, so she had no choice but to believe it. At that time, Zhang Shui found her and said that as long as Liao Hui was willing, she could marry him at any time. After weighing the pros and cons, she began to create opportunities for Zhang Shui and her son, such as asking Zhang Shui to send her son some change of clothes, or bring some food over there. Her idea was that she would not forcibly intervene in this matter, but she wanted Zhou Xiangping to understand that her son liked Zhang Shui, not Zhou Xiangping. If Zhou Xiangping is still unwilling to separate from her son under such circumstances, she will no longer interfere in their affairs. Subconsciously, she was indeed jealous of this daughter-in-law. She loved and raised her son, but in the end, she transferred all her love for him to another woman, which made her feel, always sour. What she never expected was that her son came back to question her and forcibly dragged her to Zhou's house. This kind of behavior really made her feel cold. What is she in his son's heart? Now, the father-in-law treats her like this. After a little hesitation, Zhou Xiangping pulled Liao Hui to sit next to the old lady. Liao, Grandma, I'm sorry, I'm not sensible, are you angry with me? Oh, what your grandpa did is wrong, I don't blame you. The old lady hugged her shoulders with a smile. Just don't blame him, it's not that Grandma doesn't want to help you, but in this life, Grandma has never been able to listen to you. I have passed your grandfather once, and he can't pull back 9 cows for what he is sure of. He still thinks he is right. As for your mother, don't blame her too much. Mothers are like this, looking forward to their son growing up, looking forward to his son marrying a wife, but the son really married a wife. If he treats his wife too well, she will start to feel bad. In the future, you will also have children, regardless of daughters, one day, you will also experience it. The daughter has just married, and seeing the daughter and son-in-law's family is broken, the mother is both happy and disappointed, the same reason. Mom. Jose Yangping moved to Cai Hongying's side, hesitated, grabbed her sleeve and tugged. Liao Hui was kind to me, but I was actually afraid that I would treat you badly. No matter who was right or wrong in the past, let's make peace, and we will have a good relationship in the future. Yes, stop tossing, okay. Cai Hongying pulled her hands out, tears streaming down the corners of her eyes. Old lady Liao pushed Liao Hui. After a little hesitation, Liao Hui sat on the other side of Cai Hongying. Mom, I didn't do it on purpose, I was just in a hurry. I really only love Xiaoxi, and you have been creating misunderstandings for me and Xiaoxi. You say, can I not be angry? Although Xiaoxi is careless, she is kind-hearted and never makes any inconspicuous tricks. Living with her, I feel at ease. Mom, if you really love me, you should be considerate of me, and stop judging who is more suitable for me based on your wishes. When it comes to emotional matters, you know whether you are warm or not, and you have to feel whether it is suitable or not. No matter how suitable it is for outsiders, it is useless. Cai Hongying still shed tears and did not speak. At this time, Chu Xia and Zhou Jiping walked in behind Lin Yangkaiu. Cai Hongying hurriedly turned her back to wipe away her tears, and when she turned around, she showed a forced smile. I'll make tea for you. Mom, I'll go. Jose Yangping held her down and went to the kitchen. Lin Yangkaiu said straight to the point, if it was in the past, I could really beat you up. I married a good girl into your family. Why do you think you treat her like this? My Xiaoxiang's temper is a bit stubborn, and you have your reasons if you don't like her, but I hope you will be like me and not interfere with the children's marriage. I came here just to tell you that the Zhou family doesn't care about this matter. I also know that you must have been affected by the messy news during this period of time, so you moved your mind to break off the engagement with the Zhou family. Now, after all these things, I also want to understand that sometimes, I can't ask others to be like me. I only want my children to live well, and don't care about anything else. However, the hurdles of the Zhou family have passed, and the problems you worried about will no longer exist. Let the children live their own lives, okay? Cai Hongying hung her head and said nothing. Come on, I'll go into the house with you and have a talk. Lin Yangkaiu pulled Cai Hongying's sleeve and walked upstairs. The two have been neighbors for many years, and she was as familiar with the Liao family as she was with her own. Here Jose Yangping came out with tea, and saw that only Grandma Liao and the three younger generations were left in the living room, and Grandma Liao was pulling her own siblings to boast about their handsome appearance. Liao Hui pointed to the upstairs, and whispered, go in and talk. Jose Yangping nodded, and sat next to Zhou Jiping. Why did Mom think of bringing you here? Judging from the meaning at that time, it seemed that she didn't want to interfere at all. We have to deal with it ourselves. She just talked about it. Do you think she can really feel at ease? You left on the front foot, and she was walking around in the hall on the back foot, scratching her heart and not knowing what she was going to do. It was because your third sister-in-law couldn't see it, so she discussed with her whether she should go out for a walk, and she came out with us on this pretext. After we came out, we took her for a stroll on purpose, but she turned around without saying a word. Speaking of which, Zhou Jiping couldn't help covering her mouth and laughing. I thought our mother's temper had really changed. How could things in her bones be so easy to change? Liao Hui felt embarrassed. It's all my fault, otherwise Mom wouldn't be so embarrassed. Xiao Si, I promise you that I will never have any contact with Zhang Shui in the future, regardless of business or private affairs. Zhou Xiangping rolled her eyes. Do you dare to go find her together? A trace of embarrassment flashed in Liao Hui's eyes. I knew it, you just use your lips. Zhou Xiangping rolled her eyes in contempt. If you can't do it, don't make promises. Okay, go now, I'll get that letter. Liao Hui got up and went to the bedroom. You are so unforgiving. Zhou Jiping poked her sister helplessly. Sometimes I learn to be a little softer. Look at your third sister-in-law, how gentle you are. Zhou Xiangping turned to Chu Xia, sister-in-law 3, are you naturally gentle or are you gentle because you are with my brother? After hesitating for a while, Chu Xia said, it's better for you to ask your third brother about this matter. I'm afraid that what I said is unfair, and you will be disappointed later. The Zhou family sisters. A group of people found Jiang's house. There were only Mr. Zhang and Mrs. Zhang at home. Zhang Shui was not there, so Zhou Xiangping handed the letter to Mrs. Zhang. Grandma, please give this letter to Zhang Shui, and say that I gave it to Zhang Shui her. Okay, Mrs. Zhang agreed, her eyes fixed on Chu Xia's face. Xiaomi's daughter-in-law, you are so handsome, I will come to play often in the future, remember to come to play often. Okay, Grandma, I will. Chu Xia replied with a smile, and followed the Zhou family sisters and Liao Hui out of the Zhang family compound. Before they could turn the corner, they collided with Zhang Shui. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 308. Do you know what is food poisoning? Abdominal pain, headache, nausea, and vomiting. Nuan insisted on coding under these symptoms, so desolate. The moment she saw Liao Hui, Zhang Shui's eyes brightened obviously, and then, her eyes slipped to the other people, and she nodded with a faint smile. Zhang Shui, what do you mean by writing such a letter and stuffing it in Liao Hui's pocket? Zhou Xiangping asked straight to the point. Did you find out? The smile on Zhang Shui's face remained the same. I found out earlier than I thought, and I thought you might not be able to find out. Zhou Xiangping stared at her coldly. So, you admit that you wrote the letter? Is it useful for me not to admit it? Zhang Shui spread her hands. You have asked me like this, is there any chance for me not to admit it? Zhou Xiangping looked at Liao Hui. What do you want to say? Nodding his head, Liao Hui looked at Zhang Shui. Originally, I didn't want to say this, but since you always do things that make us misunderstand, I have to say it. In the future, regardless of business or private matters, I don't want to have any contact with you again, and you don't want to tease my mother anymore. I like Xiao Si, before, now, and in the future. You always make some small moves, not only will not make me have a good impression of you, but it will also make me think that you are very annoying. If I find this kind of thing again, don't blame me for not caring about the friendship that I grew up with. If your relationship is really as good as you said, why are you afraid? Zhang Shui stared at Liao Hui. I like you, right? Play house when I was a kid. Every time I play your daughter-in-law, but you every time. They all held my hand so affectionately. It was you who said that you would marry me when you grow up. I'm a stubborn person, so I took your words seriously, but when we got older, you and Zhou Xiangping, who you hated the most, got closer and closer until we became a family. You let go. I didn't let go, so I'm not reconciled. I have to work hard for myself. Is it wrong? If you really like Zhou Xiangping firmly, you won't know what I'm thinking and see me again and again. Liao Hui, do you dare to admit it? Actually, you already have my place in your heart, and even, the proportion is getting bigger and bigger, so. You are afraid, so you are so eager to draw a line with me? It's unreasonable. Liao Hui blushed. Every time you took the initiative to find me, you suddenly appeared in front of me and started. I think that after all, we grew up together in the same compound. I am married. You should no longer have that kind of thought, then. There is nothing wrong with meeting a childhood playmate or a friend. This world is made up of men and women. No one can say that once they get married, they will stop interacting with any opposite sex, right? Am I a normal opposite sex? Zhang Shui asked back. So, after discovering your thoughts, even if you find me, I will stop talking to you. Is this true? Speaking of which, Liao Hui looked at his wife. The last time I saw her was when she was with Director Zhang. She acted very affectionately. I thought she was thinking about it, so I treated her as a friend again. When we parted after the meal, Director Zhang hugged me and patted me hard. I drank too much at the time and felt a little insensitive. Looking back now, the letter should have entered my pocket at that time. This matter is over, there is no need to explain. What I want you to do is to make it clear to her in front of us, and you will not have any contact with her in the future, that's all. Heh. Zhang Shui chuckled, raised her eyebrows and looked at Zhou Xiangping. Are you scared? Afraid that if he touches me again, he won't want you. Zhang Shui, why didn't I realize that you are so shameless before? Zhou Xiangping stared at her speechlessly. Don't you feel ashamed of what you have done? How dare you say it so righteously? I don't let Liao Hui associate with you. It's not that I'm afraid you will snatch him away. To be honest, if he really has you in his heart, it's useless if I do this. I just don't like to watch my man chatting and laughing with other women, especially, that woman still covets my man. Regardless of whether you succeed or not, I can't give you this opportunity. I don't mind if you say I'm jealous or narrow-minded. Anyway, you are not allowed to associate with him in the future, understand? Zhang Shui pursed her lips and looked at Liao Hui, who nodded quickly. What Xiao said is exactly what I think, and as I said before, I don't want to have any interaction with you again, no matter what is public or private. Is this what you really think? Of course Liao Hui nodded affirmatively. As long as Xiaoxi is happy, I can do whatever I want. Okay, I understand what you mean. Don't worry, I'm not interested in a man who doesn't care about my face and doesn't love me. Zhou Xiangping. Zhang Shui looked at Zhou Xiangping with a light smile. If you are really like this jealousy jar, life will definitely be difficult in the future. As for me, I came here with clear swords and clear guns, including that letter. In fact, it can be regarded as clear swords. Don't bother you, you just need to remember what you said yourself. Zhou Xiangping pulled Zhou Jiping and Chu Xia up, turned and left. Liao Hui chased after him without saying a word. Chu Xia saw this dispute clearly from beginning to end, and it refreshed her understanding of this era once again. According to her previous cognition, young people in this era should think that destroying other people's feelings is the most contemptible thing. Therefore, in the first days, she used this to persuade herself that everything in this era is inferior to future generations. In this aspect, later generations cannot compare. However, first Yamiru and then Zhang Shui rejected her idea. Regarding Yamiru, she always felt that it was probably because she studied abroad, received fresh Western ideas, and had a hard collision, that she made such a move. So, what about Zhang Shui? Alas, this shows that if one day she truly loves Zhou Mikang, she may also be like Zhou Xiangping, guarding against mistresses like guarding against wolves. If you don't love, you don't care about it? If you love it, how can you not care about it? No, she wants to inoculate Zhou Mikang against this matter, first see his attitude, and then she decides whether to put her true feelings on him. That's it? The wronged group leader, Tongzi, was killed just like that. Several people walked to the door of Zhou's house, only to realize that Lin Yangkai was still at Liao's house. Don't worry, Grandma will tell Mom, Liao Hui said. Zhou Xiangping didn't want to see Cai Hongying for the time being, so she stepped into the gate of Zhou's house. If she didn't go, Chu Xia and Zhou Jiping naturally wouldn't go either. Liao Hui hesitated, but turned around and went back to Liao's house. His mother-in-law must have had a lot of opinions on him. His wife could leave her mother-in-law alone, but he didn't dare. Taking advantage of this opportunity to please my mother-in-law is the real thing. As a result, as soon as he entered Liao's house, he found that his mother-in-law and his mother were sitting in the living room, having a good conversation, while his own grandma was sitting beside him, smiling and eating melon seeds, and he knew that he was in a very good mood. No matter what the situation is, happiness is a good situation. Mom, Mom. Liao Hui sat next to Mrs. Liao and greeted the two mothers. Going to Jiang's house, Lin Yangkai asked. Yes, Liao Hui smiled a little embarrassedly. Let Mom worry about it. It's okay. Lin Yangkai waved her hands generously. As long as you only have Xiaoxi in your heart, I don't have anything to worry about. Cai Hongying also quickly stated, Xiaoy, I will not get involved with you and Xiaoxi anymore. Your mother-in-law is right. The children and grandchildren have their own children and grandchildren. Whether the couple is doing well or not, I know how well I am here. Self-righteous tossing around is purely full of food. Liao Hui was terribly shocked in his heart, but nodded with a smile on his face. He is very clear about the personalities of his mother-in-law and his mother. It would be nice for these two people to talk together without turning heads. Now they are still talking and laughing happily, and they agree with each other. To be exact, his mother was given by his mother-in-law. Persuaded, this is really a wife that made him unbelievable. The Zhou family spent this day busy in welcoming and sending off. Upon hearing the news of Zhou Jingping's father and son's return, relatives who were close to him came to visit them one by one. Of course, this also included some excellent relatives who wanted to hide as far away as possible after the Zhou family's accident. If it was before, Lin Yangkai would probably be able to scold these people out on the spot, but this time, she was able to keep a faint smile on her face and chat with the other party in a lukewarm manner, which made those people secretly happy. They knew Lin Yangkai's character, and now that she was able to behave like this, it meant that she planned to ignore the past, and it meant that they could still communicate in the future. Zhou Xiangping asked her mother in private, did she really forgive them? Lin Yangkai curled her lips and said nothing. Zhou Xiangping knew that her mother was deliberately giving people hope. When something really happened in the future, those people would probably be caught blind. Knowing that Zhou's family is busy these days, Jing's family, Mr. Wan, and Father Xia didn't come to join in the fun, so they went to Wan's family in Chuxia afternoon. Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan were still making matchboxes. When they saw their daughter coming in, their faces were filled with joy, but what they asked was, Xia, why are you here? I miss my parents. Xia came over to help clean up. Anyway, I can't help much, so I'll come back to accompany my parents. Where is Grandpa Wan? It's in the study, there are guests. Zhao Yulan lowered her voice. It's a pretty girl. Looking at Lao Wan, she's very happy, but the girl didn't look too good when she came in and saw us. Didn't say anything. After pondering for a while, Chu Xia looked at Mrs. Yin, sister-in-law Yin, do you know Grandpa Wan's granddaughter? I don't know. Mrs. Yin shook her head. I have been with Wan Lao for more than 3 years, and I have never seen his daughter and granddaughter come. Those who came were all friends and almost no relatives. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 309. Dear friends, I finally resurrected at night. I suggest that everyone should not eat food that has been stored for more than a day. It is very easy to eat bad stomachs now. Xia, we are going back. You have to come over often to accompany Grandpa Wan, and you have to respect him as your own grandfather. Zhao Yulan told her daughter seriously. Mom, I will. Chuxia looked at Zhao Yulan with anticipation. I think you and Dad can live until the Chinese New Year. This child. Zhao Yulan reached out and touched her daughter's head. Xia, you have a hard time, when you can stand up and say, Dad, Mother, I can support you, your father and I will stay and never go. Lin Baohe also raised his head with a smile. Xia, your mother and I are waiting for you to support us, do you agree? Just looking at your looks, I know you can't trust me. Chu Xia pouted, I thought I wouldn't dare to bet with you, do you dare to promise me that if I have this ability within 5 years, from now on, you will have to be with me for a long time I live together, so I can only go back to my hometown for holidays, okay. That's great, Mother is looking forward to this day. Zhao Yulan's face was full of joy, if there is such a day, your father and I will die immediately. Chu Xia has black hair, I still don't believe her. Well, she'd better keep her mouth shut and show it with her actions. The affairs of the Zhou family are basically settled, and everyone has been going to work one after another in the past few days. She will go back to the hospital tomorrow too. But when father and mother are leaving, she must ask for leave from the teacher to accompany her. Work is very important, future is very important. However, isn't it all for the sake of parents? Only when she saw that they had returned to their hometown and everything was settled properly, could she feel at ease and work hard to move forward. Mrs. Yin listened to the gossip of the family of three, with a faint smile on her lips all the time. What are you laughing at? Chu Xia asked curiously. Having been with Mrs. Yin for so long, Chu Xia already knew her background, so she had some instinctive respect and pity for her. Sister-in-law Yin was originally a middle school teacher in City A, and suffered a lot after being knocked down. Her husband, who was also a teacher, couldn't bear the torture, committed suicide and had no children, so after her redress, she became a lonely person. Naturally, her husband's family will not take her in anymore. Her mother's family has an older brother and a younger brother, both of whom are married, and the house is relatively tight. She could only squeeze into one room with her parents. It's okay for a short time, but after a long time, there are all kinds of stumbling and sarcastic remarks. She couldn't live anymore, so she asked the organization to arrange a job with accommodation for her. It just so happened that Wan Lao was coming to live with Mayor A, so it was arranged by Wan Lao's side. When she first came to Wan Lao's side, she was not without sarcastic remarks. Wan Lao is a widower and she is a widow. In other words, the person who arranged for her to work next to Wan Lao probably didn't have that kind of thought in mind. At that time, Wan Lao talked to her and said that he could change her to a decent job, but she chose to stay with Wan Lao. She said that if she really left, she would have a ghost in her heart. Chu Xia respected such a person who dared to insist on himself. Mrs. Yin also likes Chu Xia very much. What Wan Lao meant, no matter whether Chu Xia plans to take the college entrance examination or not, it is always right to study more. As a teacher, Mrs. Yin took the initiative to take over the task of tutoring Chu Xia. Which teacher doesn't like students who love to learn and learn quickly? Sister-in-law Yin didn't let Chu Xia call her teacher, and Chu Xia was too embarrassed to call her sister-in-law Yin again, so she always called her you. Seeing how your family of three get along makes me happy from the bottom of my heart. Sister-in-law Yin looked at Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe with a smile. Mr. Wan actually longs for family affection. If possible, I really hope you two can live here forever. This is probably what Wan Lao most desires. Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe just smiled innocently and did not answer the conversation. Knowing that they couldn't be persuaded, Mrs. Yin sighed helplessly, you guys are just like me before. In fact, this kind of persistence is really meaningless sometimes. I know I'm a bit talkative, but I know that if you don't say it, you will definitely regret it. Last night, Boss Wan ran to the living room in the middle of the night to paste matchboxes by himself. I woke up from sleep and followed suit. He sent me back to sleep, saying that he just couldn't sleep and wanted to stay by himself for a while. He had this situation before, but he always talked with his daughter on the phone, and stayed in the study for half the night by himself. So, you should know what I mean. I have no right to interfere with how to do it. However, I really hope that you can seriously consider my suggestion. There was a long silence in the room. Chu Xia knew that parents needed time to think, so she didn't rush. At the same time, she felt sore in her heart. There may be people in this world who don't like the warmth of a family, but Wan Lao definitely doesn't. In the past, no one wanted to get close to him because he was afraid of getting involved, but now, because of his sensitive status, he couldn't get close to others at will. As for their family, it was a coincidence. There is always so much helplessness in life, especially in this age. Of course, it may be because she has never been in touch with this level before. We will come back again after a long time, Zhao Yulan said softly. We will also respect Mr. Wan as a real father, but this is not the time. Sister Yin, you are our real sister. Sister-in-law Yin, who has been with Lin Baohe for a long time, can understand Lin Baohe's endless words, and her nose is slightly sour. Although this couple lives at the bottom of society, they have the most noble personalities. No wonder Wan Lao was so concerned about their affairs, and even abandoned the principles of being a person that he always insisted on. She had doubts before, but now she understands that Wan Lao does have a good eye for people. A little regretful, but also a little proud, Chu Xia sighed helplessly. You can understand my parents, right? They have a stubborn temper. What they decide, let alone 8 cows, can't pull back 10. This child, does anyone say that about her parents? Zhao Yulan poked her daughter angrily and amusedly. Aren't we afraid of losing your face? Chu Xia protested with her mouth pouting. I don't think it's a shame for me if you stay. I can help you stick matchboxes in my spare time. You come to help, your mother-in-law and the others can watch. Lin Baohe also touched his daughter's head. A married person is still like a child. What a silly child. I'm so stupid. How can you leave me alone here? Father Xia and Mother Xia. Just at this moment, the door of the study room opened, and a girl in her 20s came out first. She had a tall figure and handsome features. She glanced at everyone's faces with a serious expression, and fixed on Chu Xia's face for 5 seconds. Without squinting, he walked towards the door. Seeing the girl arrive at the door, Chu Xia jumped up. Wait a minute. You have no right to talk to me. The girl glanced at Chu Xia lightly, opened the door and walked out. Chu Xia, don't talk to her. Wan Lao's voice came from the study, and it could be heard that he was not in a good mood. Several people winked at Chu Xia. Grandpa. Chu Xia walked into the study, closed the door, and sat opposite the old man. That's your granddaughter, isn't it? Well, the old man nodded. People say that children are the debts of parents. Grandpa probably owed them too much in his previous life. In this life, he will not be able to pay it off, he. After hesitating for a moment, Chu Xia asked, do you think we live here? No. Old man Wan shook his head. You child, don't think about it. Grandpa, you also know that my grandparents don't like me. Since I was young, I haven't felt the love of my grandparents. Now, I treat you as my own grandfather, so I hope you can talk to me if you have anything to do. No, can I help you solve it? You are also a lot of talkers, right? As for the Zhou family, don't worry, I know what to tell them and what not to tell them. I'm not a broken-mouthed person, so you have to trust me. You. Old man Wan nodded at Chu Xia, with an angry and funny expression on his face. Since when did I have to worry about what you said to the Zhou family? At this point, Grandpa has already tied up with the Zhou family. Do you think you can escape? You kid, it breaks my heart to say that. In early summer, he walked around behind Mr. Wan and rubbed his shoulders to flatter him. It's because I can't speak. Grandpa, don't take it to heart. Grandpa understands what I mean, I know. Yanyan came here this time to be in charge of the front station. Her mother wants me to go back to the capital. If it's not easy for me, let her come. Old man Wan sighed softly. Josei, tell me, what is real family affection? Like me and my parents, that is. Will you use your parents? Won't. Yeah, but they were using me, drawing boundaries when I had nothing, making fun of me as an idiot when I was helping my friends. When my friend turned over, they finally saw him, and finally thought of me as a father and grandfather. When did they think about my feelings? I am longing for family affection, but what I long for is not the family affection that is used. Forget it, there are some things that you may not understand after I tell you. Anyway, what they are doing now is to let me give up my friends and choose them. Really, I'm so disappointed. Grandpa, I'm a little confused. Josei scratched his head. I don't think I'm stupid, but I'm really a little confused when you say it. I know, you and Long are always friends, they are making you quarrel. Has Mr. Long become friends? What are you trying to do? Or, they want you to sell Mr. Long's interests and bring benefits to them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 310. As soon as it arrives, let's go early today. Hey, stay up late. Josei, sit down and talk. When Josei sat across from the old man, the other party stared at her for a long time without saying a word. Josei felt a little uncomfortable, moved his buttocks on the chair. Grandpa, did I say something wrong? Wan Lao shook his head. You said nothing wrong, girl, your intelligence is beyond my expectation. Old Joe's family, it's really good luck. Josei knew that she had guessed right, and wanted to persuade her a few words, but found that she didn't know what to say. Children are also divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades, and Wan Lao's daughter is the last one. What can be done? Compared to your parents, I'm not a qualified father. She should hate me and hate me. After a pause, Wan Lao smiled wryly. Josei, do you think that I recognized you as my granddaughter because of my mother's love, using you? If you talk about using it, it can only be said that I took advantage of Grandpa. If it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't be able to get through this difficult time wholeheartedly. She was telling the truth. If it was just the Jing family, probably, Xiao Binky and his son would not let her go so easily. If they really wanted to be cruel, it would be difficult for the Jing family to protect her well, or, Jing Zheshi will try her best to protect her, but in the end, someone must be hurt. That's not what she wants to see. My use is not political use, but, I am a lonely old man. The purpose of reaching out is to enjoy the family affection that I may never enjoy. Mr. Wan smiled wryly. Girl, if you ignore Grandpa in the future, probably, Grandpa will have no relatives. Is it that serious? Josei's face became serious. Why, you don't want to be Grandpa's granddaughter, Elder Wan said with an evasive smile. Of course I am willing, but I know that what Grandpa is looking forward to more is that my aunt and sister can return to my side. Wan Lao interrupted her. I've given up on that idea a long time ago. Originally, I just hoped that even if I got a phone call occasionally, I would be satisfied. Now it seems that my wish is just an extravagant wish. Josei didn't know what to persuade, so she could only remain silent. If the old man wanted to tell her, he would naturally say it. If he didn't want to say it, it would be pointless for her to force her. But for the general reason, she can also guess the exact reason, but she can't say. As far as her current performance is concerned, the old man has already been shocked. If she makes it too clear, the old man will really wonder if she is an undercover agent sent by the Zhou family. That would be wrong to the Zhou family. Forget it. Let me tell you, look at your curious face. Wan Lao sighed several times before saying. Just like when you were in school, most of the monitors and study committee members were not convinced by each other. What now? Grandpa belongs to the squad leaders' school, and it's your aunt's house. Of course, they also belong to the squad leaders faction, but they belong to the kind of small soldiers that the squad leader absolutely didn't know. Your aunt just thought, let me promote your uncle's family from ordinary classmates to group leaders. If they have that ability, it's okay for Grandpa to intervene. The problem is, their conduct. Grandpa is very clear, if they really do that, they will be irresponsible to the monitor, so Grandpa rejected them. The direct consequence of this is that she will turn against me completely, and even never communicate with her from then on. Of course, that step has not yet been reached. If my estimate is correct, your aunt and uncle will visit the door in the next few days, and then it will be time for a complete break. Josei, if you were a grandpa, what would you do? Grandpa wants to hear your opinion, so just tell the truth and don't think about Grandpa's ideas. After being silent for a while, Josei raised his head and looked serious. Grandpa, why do you say that parents have children? She didn't need Wan Lao to answer, she immediately asked herself, in my opinion, if parents were at that time under such circumstances, it is irresponsible to give birth to the child knowing that it is impossible to raise the child and to provide the child with a normal living environment. However, if the situation at the time allowed, but something happened later and the parents could no longer stay by their children's side and give the children a normal living environment, then it was a non-human factor, and the parents could not be blamed. As children, we should understand the difficulties of our parents, and thank our parents for bringing us life and allowing us to come into this wonderful world. But no matter what the situation is, when parents give birth to children, it is for the reproduction of human beings, and it is for the continuation of life and the care they give to their children. They also hope that one day when they are old, their children can give corresponding feedback. It may sound ruthless, but in fact it is. Otherwise, why would you selflessly give birth to a bunch of children and let yourself live a miserable life? Of course, 80% of people may disagree with my point of view, but I really think so, and I also feel that my aunt's personality is a bit extreme. Probably, she wouldn't listen to what Grandpa told her, so no matter what Grandpa did now, it would be impossible to win her heart, unless her wish was fully satisfied. If I were a grandfather, I would first want to understand what I value most, which one I care about the most, the restlessness of my life, or the resentment of my children, and then choose the one I don't mind. After Josei's voice fell, Mr. Wan remained silent for a long time. Obviously, he was thinking about Josei's remarks. Girl, can you tell Grandpa when you figured this out, or when your mind changed? The time I almost drowned in order to correspond to the time. Josei can only say this, she can't say it. Is this the concept of her future generations? In this day and age, most people have an instinct for having children. In other words, many people still think that the more children the better, no matter whether they can afford it or not, the more the better anyway, especially boys. Even he is happy to let him give birth to a strengthened one. As for whether he can give birth after giving birth, if you can't live, it depends on your luck. Those who survive are heroes, and those who die are considered cowards. It's a blessing in disguise. Wan Lao finally saw a smile on his face. To reward your enlightenment, I will teach you to play a new piece today. Josei had a black thread. I thought you were going to treat me to something delicious. Ha ha ha. The old man laughed happily. When she got home at night, Josei told Jo Mikang what happened at Wan's house in the afternoon. She wanted to know from Jo Mikang what happened to Mr. Wan's daughter. It would be great if it could help Wan Lao. Although, her responsibility theory relieved Wan Lao's psychological burden, but as a father, how could he really let go? If Wan Lao's daughter goes the wrong way, it may not hurt Wan Lao, but Wan Lao will not be really happy in his life. After pondering for a while, Jo Mikang finally said, the man Wan Yuqian married had a rivalry with Xiao Bing. If Wan Lao didn't help them, it was for their own good. If this kind of person really climbed up, it would be a disaster, not just for others. Your disaster, or your own disaster. Chu Xia said with a look of disgust, how could you marry such a man? Zhou Mikang looked at her solemnly, I didn't investigate this matter for you. Turn around and tell you after the investigation. Hate it, Chu Xia punched him, I'm serious, I'm not joking with you. I'm not joking with you either. Zhou Mikang hugged her in his arms, and Chu Xia's body stiffened slightly, don't be afraid, before you fall in love with me, I won't do anything to you, I want it, not just your body, but also your heart, understand? Have more heart, Chu Xia followed his voice with his mind in a daze. Of course Zhou Mikang turned over and pressed her down, narrowing his eyes dangerously, what do you mean, do you want me to take your body first and your heart second? Ah, with a strong masculinity, the drunk early summer was a little dizzy, staring blankly at the other party with big eyes, slightly opening his small mouth, and Zhou Mikang's blood was about to boil. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 311. The second watch arrives, and the third watch is in the middle of revision, and it will be uploaded in about an hour. If you continue to behave like this, I will take you to for rectification on the spot, Zhou Mikang muttered, rolling off Chu Xia's body, his chest heaving violently. Cut, Chu Xia pointed his middle finger at him, if you can't do what you said, I will despise you forever, first despise you with my son and daughter, then despise you with my son, daughter, grandson, and granddaughter, and then in the future, I will despise you with my son, daughter, grandson, granddaughter, great-grandson, great-granddaughter, great-grandchild, and then. Stop, Zhou Mikang hurriedly interrupted her, how old are you planning to live? Chu Xia tilted his head, pretended to think for a while, then raised 2 fingers and then raised 3 fingers, I'm only 200 or 300 years old, I don't want to live if I grow older, and I will be called an old scourge. The fluffy skin was glowing like milk, the bright red mouth was slightly pouting, and the eyes were shining. Zhou Mikang forcibly pulled his gaze back, got off the bed and stepped into the bathroom in 2 or 3 steps. Chu Xia first smiled smugly, and then turned her little face bitterly, yes, she wanted to talk to him about going back to her hometown, why did she send him to the bathroom? When the group leader's Heise calmed down and came out of the bathroom, he saw his little wife curled up into a ball and huddled under the blanket, staring at him with a wrinkled face. What's wrong? He glanced at her suspiciously, shouldn't you be gloating and laughing at your misfortune after making a profit? Could it be? Conscience has found out, so how about self-examination? I want to go home. Aren't you at home right now? Chu Xia pouted, don't pretend to be confused with me. You know what I mean. I don't know. The leader, Heise, continued to pretend to be confused. I'm talking about accompanying my parents back to their hometown. I must send them back. If you don't have time, I will accompany them back by myself. Anyway, they can't go back by themselves. Can you solve the problem by going back by yourself? Zhou Mikang pulled back the quilt and got in, hugged her into his arms, and rubbed her head with his big hands. Chu Xia felt her eyes sore for a while, trying to hold back the tears that were about to come out of her eyes. Yes. Okay, then you can go back. Zhou Mikang patted her, go to bed if you have nothing else to do. Chu Xia bit her lips, I'll go back to work tomorrow. Zhou Mikang responded happily, okay. Sleeping Chu Xia threw off his embrace angrily. His body was lumpy again, and behind him came the chuckle of the group leader Tongzi, gritted his teeth bitterly, and forced himself to fall asleep, but the more he wanted to sleep, the more he couldn't sleep, and the tears of grievance kept pouring out. Why should Mao, a new human being in the 21st century, suffer this? Isn't it right to marry him and accompany her back to her mother's house? Not only did he not accompany him, Also look down on people. I can't bear it anymore. She suddenly sat up, and without waiting for the group leader Tongza to recover, she punched him desperately with her little fist. I will make you laugh, I will make you laugh. You laugh again. Bastard. I will marry you, it's not to make you laugh at me. Accompany me back to my mother's house, it's necessary, I want to be lazy. There's no way. He grabbed her hands with a smile, and his narrow eyes were full of smiles. Hey, talk to me if you have something to say. Don't talk about it, she twisted her body back and forth. You are the one who wants to marry me. You have to be responsible for your actions. I solved the difficulties for you, and you have to solve the difficulties for me. A person has a face, and a tree has a skin. If you don't give my parents a face, I won't give you a face. I want others to think that your vision is extremely poor, and you married a shrew village girl. Your face is all lost. Joe Mikang suppressed a smile and nodded. Okay, you're a shrew. You are the shrew. Chu Xia twisted her body and tried to pull her hand out, but she couldn't. Didn't you say that yourself? You want to be a shrew village girl, you child, why are you doing this? You're just a child. Chu Xia stared at him bitterly. Let me go, don't let me shout anymore. Call it. Joe Mikang nodded. Call it whatever you think is good, I won't mind. Chu Xia froze there, then her face flushed red. Rogue. Why are you a hooligan? Joe Mikang stepped up, his hands with a smile on his face, and forcibly pulled her into his arms. Go to sleep. You. Chu Xia asked through gritted teeth. Are you going to accompany me back to my hometown? What do you say? Chu Xia suddenly felt that this kind of forcing was very boring, and the strength of the struggle disappeared to zero. Her little head drooped down, and her voice was muffled. Whatever. Seeing her like this, Joe Mikang felt a little inexplicably nervous, and at the same time a little disappointed. She didn't believe him. Why didn't I go back with you? The big hand stroked her back. Don't worry, I won't let you face difficulties by yourself. You. Biting his lips, Chu Xia turned around and looked at him seriously. If there is a girl who stalks you and wants to be with you, what will you do? What gossip did you hear? Joe Mikang frowned. He felt that his little wife's mood tonight was not right, and sure enough, there was a reason. No. Chu Xia shook his head, and told about how he accompanied Zhou Xiangping to find Zhang Shui, and finally made a small summary. Yamiru never forgets you, and Zhang Shui never forgets Liao Hui. There are so many such women, I have to be mentally prepared. What are you prepared? Joe Mikang finger on the head of the early summer. Think again, see if I don't beat your ass. Rogue. It seems that you don't feel comfortable if I don't play a little hooligan. Before Chu Xia came back to her senses, Joe Mikang turned her back on the bed and pressed her down. Then she felt a tingling pain around her lips. It was pierced by a beard. Before she could resist, the soft tongue had already pried open her teeth, and leaned in. She really wanted to take a bite, but for some reason, she just couldn't stop. Gradually, her body became weak and her strength was gone, and her arms unconsciously wrapped around his neck. The pounding heartbeat made her ears hurt, and she didn't know if it was his or hers. Xia. He called softly. He had never spoken to her so gently before, and she responded lazily without realizing it, but this ignited his enthusiasm even more. His lips moved down, swam around her neck, and then, turning to her ear again, let me give you a hug, okay? Huh? Chu Xia's head was dizzy, and she felt that she should stop him, but she was a little bit reluctant to give up this strange feeling, so she stared at him in bewilderment. This kind of small appearance that allows you to take advantage of others, it is simply an encouragement. Joe Mikang knew that if he continued, if he wanted to keep his promise, he would suffer. However, he couldn't stop. It would be no wonder if a normal 27-year-old man could stop. The point is, this is his legal wife, and he doesn't want to stop. He put his hand on the buttons of her pajamas, and tremblingly unbuttoned them. 1, 2, the snow white towering popped out. Just as Chusia was about to cover it with his hands, he felt a heat on his chest, and he had already sucked the top. Hong Ying, with her tongue circling on it, grabbed the other with one big hand, and rubbed it vigorously. Everything happened so suddenly. Chusia was completely startled by her own strong emotion. Her body not only did not resist it, but also had a kind of strong pandering, uncontrollable pandering, feeling as if she was standing between her legs, that hard pillar. She felt both fear and a trace of unspeakable expectation. Is this feeling really as good as described in the book? Or, she is the kind of person who likes to take risks in her bones. She must admit that if it wasn't for her bold provocation, Zhou Mikang would not have lost control. But why did she tease him? Is it because she saw Zhang Shui today? Does she want to confirm this relationship? Chu Xia was suddenly taken aback by her own thoughts, and felt his hands start to reach down. The alarm bell rang in her heart, and she tightly grasped the waist of the pajama pants with both hands. Zhou Mikang. Huh, his voice was magnetically hoarse. At this time, it is immoral to do so, right? It was she who caused the trouble first, and now she is forcing him away. She is his legal wife. Various thoughts flashed through her mind, and when she was hesitating and not knowing what to do, he had already stopped what to do. Move, lie down beside her, and hold her tightly in his arms. I'm sorry. No. No need. Chu Xia was ashamed and ashamed. Of course she was ashamed of her gaffe just now. Of course she was ashamed of her seduction. How could she do such a thing? I want to tell you, no matter what time comes, you must believe in me, and I would rather hurt myself than I will hurt you. Zhou Mikang's breathing was still very short, but he could really forbear and stop messing with her. This concentration is worthy of her admiration. In fact, in terms of her state just now, it was very easy for him to force her. After all, she didn't have much resistance to him, and she didn't even understand why it happened. Zhou Mikang, are you in love with me? Chu Xia hesitated for a while before asking. Yes. Really? Real? Is it the same in this life? Constant? Then. She took his hand and stroked it on her chest. You want me? His body was visibly tense. Chu Xia, do you love me? I want you to fall in love with me. Fall in love with me as quickly as possible. In early summer, there is a black line. Is this artificially controllable? However, did she feel a little love for him? Otherwise, how could he not only not be disgusted with his closeness, but also yearn for it? After a while, Chu Xia said quietly, I will soon have my 18th birthday. He hugged her arm tightly, and grinned silently with his mouth, and it will be her birthday in 1.5 months. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 312. At 3 o'clock. Waking up in the morning, Zhou Mikang stared at his little wife's face for a while, quietly pulled out the arm that was under the little wife's neck, and went to the bathroom lightly. When he came out, he found that the quilt had moved slightly, so he knew that the little wife had woken up, probably because his skin was tender, and he was embarrassed to face him, so he sat on the side of the bed in a funny way, and kissed the little wife on the forehead. Pat her ass. Stop pretending, I know you're awake, come and kiss me, I'm going out to exercise. Chu Xia shrank her head into the quilt. You won't pretend you didn't see it? I'm sorry. You are my legal wife, what are you embarrassed about? Zhou Mikang dug up the quilt and hugged her in his arms. If I really pretend that I don't see you awake, you will come downstairs and see me later. It must be unnatural. Don't you want to be seen by mom and grandma? I don't want to. Chu Xia hurriedly shook her head, thinking of the expectant eyes of the second elder. She looked at Zhou Mikang weakly. Aren't we very selfish when we are like this? It's you, not me, so don't add we. If you feel sorry for them, fall in love with me quickly. Otherwise, One day you will make my body go wrong, and your sin will be serious. Chu Xia stared at him speechlessly. There is no switch in this matter. You can fall in love if you say you fall in love. Then tell me, what don't you like about me? Zhou Mikang stared at Chu Xia with stern eyes. Tell me what you dislike the most, and I will try my best to get closer to what you like. The one I dislike the most. Chu Xia pondered for a while. Overbearing, too overbearing. I used to be a bit domineering to you. Now, is there? Zhou Mikang said while pricking Chu Xia's tender cheeks with his beard. Stop making trouble, it hurts. Chu Xia staggered away from him by dodging from left to right. Look at you, you are overbearing now. This is called domineering. Your definition of domineering is too broad. You are not allowed to make excuses. Your answer is obviously to tell me that you are not dissatisfied with me. Therefore, it is very easy to get rid of your prejudice against me. Quick. You'll love me. TCH, you are so beautiful. Come on, kiss one, I'm going to exercise. No, I didn't brush my teeth. I don't mind. I don't think so. Well. Sticky for a while. Zhou Mikang, who took advantage of it, went out to exercise with a smile on his face. Chu Xia clutched her burning cheeks. Her mind was full of small entanglements, except for the secret love that had just begun. She has never been in love before. Is this love? The main reason seems to be that she feels that she is his wife, so she should do this task, or... It was also influenced by Zhao Yulan's advice, so she didn't have such a strong heart to resist. According to the description of my previous best friend, I fell in love with someone. You should always want to see him and hear his voice. His advantages are advantages, and his disadvantages are still advantages. Straighten out a circle. Chu Xia discovered that not only did she fail to straighten things out, but she became even more confused. According to the conditions, she didn't seem to have any problems. However, when he was making out with her, she didn't reject him at all. It doesn't mean that she would hate him without love. The other party's touch? So tangled. When Chuxia went downstairs, Mrs. Zhou and Lin Yangkai both paid special attention to her, and then, disappointment seemed to flash across their faces, so fast that she wondered if she was wrong. After breakfast, Chu Xia told the whole family about her decision to go to work. Everyone had no objection to this. Originally, she had promised that she could continue to work after marriage. It's time to go to work, this matter is over, and it's time to return to the normal life track. Go to Wan's hometown to say hello to Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe, and Zhou Mikang personally drives Chu Xia to the hospital. Chu Xia wanted to say that it would be the same for her to take a ride with Jingzhe, but after taking a look at Zhou Mikang's face, she finally didn't dare to say it out. Although Jingzhe is her brother now, he would still be jealous if he didn't keep the package. Along the way, both of them were silent. In Chuxia, Zhou Mikang just stared out the window and said nothing when Zhou Mikang hadn't adjusted to the sudden close relationship between the two of them. Chu Xia. Zhou Mikang finally opened his mouth when the car drove halfway. There is something, I think I should tell you now, so that you can prepare mentally in advance. What's the matter? Chu Xia felt her heart hanging in her throat. Based on what she knew about Zhou Mikang, if it wasn't for something important, he wouldn't be like this. Moreover, it doesn't seem to be a good thing. This has just been rehabilitated, so is it possible that some demon moth will appear again? I may not be able to accompany you back to your mother's house. Oh, Chu Xia responded, feeling dull, and her energy suddenly withered. She hated this kind of outburst, but she had said all that needed to be said, and now, she didn't bother to mention a single word. It's not that I don't want to accompany you, it's... After a long pause, Zhou Mikang spoke again, it's because I'm going on a mission. Chu Xia sat up straight suddenly. When? We will start in 5 days. In such a hurry? Yes, I just received the notice this morning. Jo Mikang reached out to stroke her head. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? I shouldn't have married you so early. Chu Xia's brain thumped. What mission do you want? I'm sorry, I can't say this. Jo Mikang looked at her apologetically. It's not that I deliberately wanted to hide it from you. The army has discipline. In fact, if I tell you now, I have already violated the discipline. Is it a war? Chu Xia's voice trembled violently. She knew that a war would break out a year later, but now, could it be that this time, it was earlier? Jo Mikang touched her head again, but said nothing. How long will it be, did you tell me? Chu Xia's voice unconsciously tinged with crying. Have no idea. Are you going to the YN border? Crunch, the car stopped suddenly, and Jo Mikang stared straight at Chu Xia. How did you know so clearly? There were signs of this war half a year ago, but the news was limited to high-level people. Only people at his father's level are qualified to know. Like him, although he had guessed before, he really got the exact news this morning. How do I know? Chu Xia looked at him with tears in his eyes. Are you doubting me? Silly girl. Jo Mikang hugged her in his arms. What can I suspect of you? I'm just curious, how do you know this? Chu Xia's face was taken for granted. When you were talking about the international forum, I was listening to it. If you think about it, you will know, Joe's men usually talk about some topics that should not be discussed outside. She didn't lie about this. Jo Mikang hugged her arm tightly again. Based on this logical analysis ability, if you were born a man, you would definitely be no worse than me. Chu Xia is sweating. How can she have that ability? But there is no other way to explain her prophecy, so she has to put a high hat on herself. Let me ask you, if you knew there was going to be a war, would you still marry me? After a long silence, Jo Mikang said, I must tell you honestly, although I feel sorry for you, I still want to marry you. That is to say, before you married me, you already knew that there might be a war, right? Chu Xia continued to ask. Yes, Jo Mikang nodded honestly. He had indeed just received the exact news. However, in terms of formal analysis and his talent, how could he really have no feeling at all? When did you analyze it? Chu Xia pushed Jo Mikang away and stared straight at him. When I first met me, or after I became a soldier, or when? To be exact, it was after I established a relationship with you. At that time, I still didn't know if I fell in love with you, but I had struggles and thought about giving up, but in the end, I couldn't do it. I pictured the scene of you marrying another man in my mind, but in the end, I found that I couldn't convince myself to let go. Jo Mikang looked at Chu Xia seriously. You can call me selfish, but I think you can only. It's my wife. Even if I go to war, for you, I will definitely let myself come back healthy and sound. Okay, Chu Xia took the initiative to hug him. Jo Mikang, I like you. The head of the group, Tongzi, who was prepared to be scolded by Chu Xia, just stood there stiffly with his arms tied. Why did he like him? Until he returned to his office, Jo Mikang still had a misty expression. Zhou Hanliang, who was waiting in the office, looked at the expressionless head of the group, Tongzi, who came in with a smile on his eyes and brows, and sat on the chair without even looking at him, in a daze. Zhou Hanliang was a little unsure about his eyes, so he pinched himself first to confirm that he was not dreaming, and then shook his fingers in front of his eyes to confirm that his eyes were fine, then came to sit down opposite the leader Tongzi, and stared straight at him. Looking at the other party, in the end, he just stared at him for a long time without waiting for the group leader Tongzi to ask questions. Leader, you. Han Liang couldn't help it. Did you meet a happy event or, what's the matter? Ah, the head of the group, Tongzi, who finally came back to his senses, immediately returned to seriousness, picked up the documents on the table. Let's go, let's start the meeting. Zhou Hanliang followed him tremblingly. Generally speaking, when the leader is moody, nothing good will happen. He should be careful not to be caught by the fish. Su Zhenghong looked at Zhou Hanliang, who was following Zhou Mikang with his legs limping, and asked suspiciously, "Han Liang, what's wrong with your leg?" "A little cramp." "Cramp?" Su Zhenghong frowned. "Didn't go to the hospital for an examination? If it doesn't work, don't go this time." "No, no, no." Zhou Hanliang waved his hands again and again, carefully glanced at the leader's tube, and sat a little far away from him, before saying, "The leader laughed foolishly early in the morning, which scared me, and my legs cramp." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 313. The first update arrives, the second update code is over, the article is being revised, and it will be uploaded soon. Su Zhenghong looked at Zhou Mikang expectantly. Is there any big happy event at home? As a relative of the Zhou family, it was rare for him to be implicated this time. It's time to go back to Zhou's house to have a look. The smile on the corner of Zhou Mikang's mouth subconsciously spread. My daughter-in-law said she likes me, can I not be happy? The room fell into a strange silence. Su Zhenghong and Zhou Hanliang stared at Zhou Mikang with cross-eyed eyes. Zhou Mikang frowned in displeasure. What are you doing? After all, I was startled once in the morning. Zhou Hanliang came back to his senses first, pulled the muscles on his cheeks, and moved his teeth. At this moment, Zhang Jiaming, Political Commissar Lu Liwei of Regiment B, Lin Hongjiang, head of Regiment C, and Qian Xiaoming, Political Commissar, walked in together. Su Zhenghong and Zhou Hanliang quickly rolled their eyes, adjusted the focus, and made a calm gesture. Zhou Tuan Zhang Jiaming stepped forward, hugged Zhou Mikang and patted him hard. It can be regarded as coming back. I miss me to death. Lin Hongjiang pushed him away, and hugged Zhou Mikang herself instead. Zhou Tuan, you're not here, I'm exhausted from training. Zhou Tuan, they really miss you. When you are here, they will fight you to the death. If you are not here these days, they don't even have the energy to train. Yeah, when you're here, they look like they've been pumped with chicken blood. When you're not, they're like wilted dog tails. If you don't believe me, ask Han Liang. Lu Liwei and Qian Xiaoming laughed and shook their heads, joking one after another. That's right. You are expecting me to come back and continue to ravage you, right? Zhou Mikang also patted Lin Hongjiang's back vigorously and laughed. If it was before, being hugged and tossed by everyone in turn, he would definitely push everyone away, but now, his heart was full of sour and swollen emotions. Even if they usually blushed and punched each other, but at this moment, this kind of true friendship in battle cannot be deceived. Zhou Tuan, don't throw your big talk so early, I let you go before, Zhang Jiaming said while pushing Zhou Hanliang. Talked to Zhou Tuan about our competition some time ago. Lin Hongjiang said sharply, hurry up and pull it down. If the soldiers of the regiment were not depressed because the regiment leader was not here, would you have any advantage? You know why we didn't win the regiment. Let me tell you, it was to cheer up the soldiers of Regiment A. Zhang Jiaming pointed his little finger at him. Hey, you are shameless. If Group A has emotions, your group is really the defeat of our Group B. Don't shame yourself, it's gold. Lu Liwei looked at the two of them with a funny face. Listen to you two arguing. Why do I have a feeling that there are no tigers in the mountains, and monkeys are called kings? Hi. Old Lu, what group are you in? It doesn't matter how many groups, I'm just talking about the facts. Looking at the harmony of the heads and political commissars of the three regiments under him has never been before. A gratified smile appeared on Su Zhenghong's face. Okay. I have seen your solidarity and friendship, Let's start the meeting. This is after Joe Mikang returned. In a regular meeting of Division A, after reporting on the training situation during this period, Su Zhenghong's face became serious. I believe you have all received the notice, do your ideological work on the soldiers these few days, and don't want to participate in the mission. Yes, let them submit their applications early. Master, those who belong to the only child in the family, should we let them stay? Lu Liwei looked at Su Zhenghong inquiringly and asked. This is still based on personal preference, but each regiment can call such soldiers together for a meeting. After a pause, Su Zhenghong continued, we must tell them that they will not be looked down upon if they stay. Let them consider the situation at home comprehensively. Of course, there must be differences in the treatment of soldiers who participated in the mission and soldiers who did not participate in the mission, and they should be mentally prepared for this. According to the information they got, it is unknown when they will return this time, but the war will not break out in a short period of time. For the time being, it is just for deterrence. However, it is now in an emergency situation. For soldiers, it is necessary to raise soldiers for thousands of days and use them for a while. Although guns have no eyes, I believe that most people hope to prove their worth. This is why Su Zhenghong does not adopt a one-size-fits-all approach. I guess with this democratic method, no one would choose to stay. Qian Xiaoming frowned. They are all at the age of enthusiasm, even if there are a few who don't want to go, probably, they are too embarrassed to say so. This is the job of your political commissars. First, find out the basics of democracy. In the end, if you are too embarrassed to express your thoughts, you will forcefully make a list. This way, everyone will look good. Well, that's good. Zhou Hanliang nodded in agreement. At least this way you won't leave what you want to go, and take what you left behind. Then it's settled. Time is tight. Everyone hurry up to finalize this matter and adjourn the meeting. Su Zhenghong ended the meeting quickly. Time was really tight. Zhang Jiaming and the others exchanged a few words with Zhou Mikang, and then went back to their respective regiments to work. Commander, I'm going back to deal with this matter. You and the teacher will talk for a while. Zhou Hanliang threw down a sentence and ran out like a rabbit. What about retaliation? Su Zhenghong had been thinking about what happened in the morning, so after hesitating for a moment, he sat next to Zhou Mikang and put his hand on his shoulder. I am your little uncle. Just say what you want. Zhou Mikang glanced at him lightly. You don't need to play the family card with me first. I have no intention of beating anyone now. Su Zhenghong coughed lightly. Do you really like Lin Chuxia? Is that what you asked? This. Su Zhenghong smiled embarrassingly. It's true that my uncle shouldn't be the one asking about this, but your sister-in-law doesn't always see you, and you know how much she cares about you. Originally, she always suspected that you married Lin Chuxia on purpose to silence the family members, but, after what happened a while ago, I was talking about the fact that you protected Lin Chuxia before our family had an accident. My sister-in-law's thinking has changed a little bit. This time, our family has such a big incident. The Lin family is quite interesting, although it is a small family, but their eyelids are not shallow at all. Your sister-in-law asked me to tell you that you can't let her girl down. Looking at your situation this morning, I think your sister-in-law's worry seems a little unnecessary, right? What do you want to say in the end? I just want to say. Su Zhenghong scratched his head and mumbled for a long time without uttering a word. Does my sister-in-law know about our mission? Yes, Su Zhenghong nodded. She knows we're on a mission, but she doesn't know the details, but she should be able to guess it from her appearance. Why didn't she tell me herself? Ah, Su Zhenghong was taken aback for a moment, and smiled wryly. You already guessed what I'm going to say, right? Don't you just want me to leave a child behind before I leave? Yes, that's what happened. Su Zhenghong nodded repeatedly. I'll just say it. You're really smart. You don't need me to tell you, you understand. Understand what? Su Zhenghong didn't know what to say. Did he say that he understood that before setting off, he should first sow seeds? What did you say to tell me to treat her girl well? Is this because you want to treat her well? Jo Mikang snorted. Tell me, sister-in-law, don't just think about your own affairs. If she really thinks that the Lin family is not easy, she shouldn't open your mouth and let you say, little uncle, I think you are a bit stupid. Why didn't she say that you don't know? He. Su Zhenghong could only smirk. Don't you feel useless by letting my sister-in-law do everything? You don't give up everything to Chu Xia, do you feel useless? After Su Zhenghong said this, Jo Mikang froze there. Su Zhenghong felt a little regretful. Finally the little stubborn figured it out, was willing to marry a wife, and was willing to treat others well, so don't be stubborn again because of his words. I'm different from you. After a while, Jo Mikang looked at Su Zhenghong seriously. You listen to everything regardless of right and wrong, but I am selective, so I am different from you. After finishing speaking, quickly got up and opened the door to leave. After being stunned for a long time, Su Zhenghong finally realized that this little stubborn man had a guilty conscience. Thinking of this, he hurriedly called his wife to report, Yuping, you don't have to worry too much about Xiaomi, he will treat his wife well. Afterwards, he vividly described Jo Mikang's behavior in the morning. Unexpectedly, the wife on the other end of the phone let out a long sigh after hearing this. Why did this boy become a wife slave all of a sudden? If this is the case, I guess my sister-in-law's desire to hold her grandson will not be realized for a while. You guys. Su Zhenghong shook his head and didn't say any more. You want to say that we are selfish, right? Zhou Yueping's voice was full of helplessness. My elder brother's side, whether the eldest daughter-in-law can have children in this life depends on God's will, and Xiaomi's side depends on God's will. Su Zhenghong also remained silent when his wife didn't continue talking. In his position, it's really hard to say anything about this matter, but can he say that his wife is selfish? He's not sure either. However, Jo Mikang was not bothered by his sister-in-law and uncle. When he returned to the regiment, Zhou Hanliang happened to have just finished a meeting with everyone. As everyone guessed, after hearing the news, the soldiers were not depressed, but each one of them was very upset. Get excited, what needs to be done is not who is mobilized, but who is mobilized to stay. Xiaomi, come with me. Su Zhenghong hurried in, pulled Jo Mikang and walked out. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 314. The second watch arrives. Crying and begging me, maybe I will make you feel better because of your good looks. Xiao Yuan grinned and looked at Chu Xia proudly. Chu Xia, whose hands and feet were tied and thrown in the back seat, had basically calmed down after the initial panic. After Jo Mikang sent her to the hospital in the morning, before it was time to go to work, she planned to go to the dormitory to distribute wedding candy to the sisters, but Rao Ying stopped her forcibly on the way. Lin Chuxia, you are so despicable. These were Rao Ying's first words. I'm sick in my head, she replied to her like this. You said that you don't have any thoughts about Captain Zhou, yet you would seduce him and marry him. How dare you be shameless? When Rao Ying said this, her entire face twisted. Chu Xia wanted to go around her, and didn't want to chat with her, but she didn't know that the other party raised his hand to cover her mouth. When avoiding the other party, she was strangled from behind, and a wet towel was quickly covered her mouth. When she woke up again, she was in a bumpy car with Xiao Yuan sitting beside her and Xiao Binqi sitting in front of the car. She knew the physical condition of the father and son, so for the time being, she would not have that fear. She was only lucky that there were no other men in the car. Regarding the fate of the father and son, she once asked Jo Mikang, and the answer was that they were already under control, but now, why did they suddenly appear here? How could they team up with Rao Ying to tie her up? With the current situation of the father and son, she is not sure whether they kidnapped her to use her as a bargaining chip or revenge, if the former. She can feel at ease, if it's the latter, any possibility is possible. She sat up slowly. His hands were digging quietly behind, hoping to find something that could serve as a clue. Not afraid, Xiaoyuan, who had never received an answer from Chu Xia. Obviously a little impatient, he slapped her across the face. If you don't talk again, I'll slap your face. Have you ever been wronged like this? Why did she come to this damn age? Thinking of the things she might have to face, Chu Xia couldn't control her emotions anymore. Tears rolled down like broken beads. This made Xiaoyuan's anger calm down a bit. So you will cry? I thought you were a die-hard guy like Zhou Mikang. Call me brother. Listen. If you say you like me, brother, and Zhou Mikang, I won't hit you again. The hand touches the peach stone bracelet on the wrist. Chu Xia's mood stabilized a little. She sniffed. Why did brother-in-law kidnap me? I'm not your brother-in-law anymore. Xiaoyuan snorted coldly. Do as I say, otherwise, I'll make your face perfectly symmetrical. He raised his hands while speaking. Even if the hero does not suffer from immediate losses, but it's impossible for her to say that to such a disgusting person. Grandma's, she has been reborn once, and she will die when she dies. Maybe he can be reborn again. Thinking of this, Chu Xia sat up straight and stiffened his neck. You can hit me if you have the ability. If I fall into your hands, I don't plan to go back alive. Go ahead and kill me. It just saves me from seeing you again. It's a pig face. Stinky woman. Xiaoyuan pulled Chu Xia's hair and was about to slap Chu Xia's face, but Xiao Bing, who had been silent all this time, hurriedly stopped. Stop. Dad, what do you mean? Xiaoyuan looked dissatisfied. He didn't have any sympathy for Chu Xia now, or because of the injury to that part, he now had no sympathy for any woman. A strong sense of revenge. You can deal with her any way you want when you leave the city. Xiao Bing raised his chin and nodded outside the car. Glancing at the pedestrians outside looking into the car from time to time, Xiaoyuan stopped resentfully. After thinking about it for a while, Chu Xia realized that there seemed to be something wrong with the car that Xiao Binky and his son got. According to her feeling, the speed was about 20 miles. There are few cars in this era. Driving is very easy to attract attention. The window on her side is covered by a curtain. If she quietly lifts it up and shouts, the idea is only flashed, and she will reject it. Sacrifice, the unlucky one is still her. Although I just thought that if I die, I can go back again, but if I can't go back, so, if I can live, I should try to live as much as possible. For her, the most important thing now is to keep herself safe, not to think about it. Rebirth after death. Her hand was moving slightly behind her, and her fingers nimbly hooked down and hooked again. She had never been so thankful that she had a pair of extremely flexible and soft hands. Uncle Xiao, brother-in-law Xiao, I know that you kidnapped me to take revenge on the Zhou family. In fact, I was also forced to marry into the Zhou family. However, I believe that what I say now, it is impossible for you not to regard me as a Zhou family. Part of the family. Then, I will lower the requirements a little bit. Can you tell me why Raoying will help you? If you are idle, let me be a ghost. Why should I tell you? Xiaoyuan pursed his lips. I just want to make you a fool. After his body became feminine, his personality seemed to become feminine too. Chu Xia asked selfishly, you really hate the Zhou family, don't you? Nonsense. That's right, if I were you, I would also hate the Zhou family to the bone. Chu Xia sighed. You may not believe it, but what I said is true. I was really forced to marry into the Zhou family. Uncle Xiao and brother-in-law Xiao both know that our family is from the countryside, very poor, and my father and mother only have me as a daughter, so my grandparents don't treat them well, and the villagers don't look down on them either. I just wanted to improve the situation of my parents by serving as a soldier, but Zhou Mikang forced me to marry him as soon as I came to the army. If I didn't marry, I would not be able to serve as a soldier and would be sent back. Brother-in-law Xiao, if you were me, which path would you choose? At that time, I just hated him for forcing me to marry at a young age, but you all know what happened to the Zhou family next time. He just deliberately dragged me into the fire pit. You and the Zhou family are deadly rivals. I can understand how he treats me like this. I believe that if it is the other way around, he will treat your people like this. Therefore, no matter what the result is, I will not hate you. Think we'll let you go if you say it nicely. Xiao Yuan interrupted her with a sideways glance. I tell you, it's no use pretending to be pitiful, I won't be fooled by you. I'm telling the truth. Chu Xia sighed. Uncle Xiao and brother-in-law Xiao are capable people with social experience, you should be able to hear whether I'm telling the truth or not. I hope you let me go, not for anything else, but for my parents, they only have me as a daughter, they dragged me so hard, if something happened to me, how would they survive? Then it's none of our business. Ouch, the car slammed to a stop. Xiao Yuan hit his head on the front seat, he covered his head in pain and asked Xiao Binky, Dad, what are you doing? Control that woman, Xiao Binky said anxiously. What's wrong? Xiao Yuan was still clutching his head in daze, and felt a chill down his neck. When he came back to his senses, he found that someone who had been pretending to be pitiful and weak to them just now was stabbing them with a small scalpel around his neck. While he was in a daze, Chu Xia had already kicked him in the crotch, and pressed him into the empty space between the two seats with his arms to squat, but the strength was a bit too strong, and Xiao Yuan's neck was cut a big hole, blood flowed down Chu Xia's hand along the blade. Be gentle, be lightly. Xiao Yuan couldn't move because he was pressed into the seam of the seat, so he begged for mercy in a low voice, Sister Chu Xia, because I listened so carefully to your story just now, I am merciful. Are you listening carefully? Certainly. What did I say? You bastard, as the driver, Xiao Bing was so angry that the veins on his forehead popped out. How he gave birth to such a coward is also his own fault. He was too careless, thinking that the little girl was really scared, so he would make a long speech wordy. Anyway, he was saying that the Zhou family was not good, so he just let it go. Who would have thought that she was simply trying to attract their attention to untie herself? Now surrounded by several cars, he was surprised that the car was so fast. Don't get up, otherwise, he would have thought about fighting to the death with the other party, but at this speed, even if he wanted to, he wouldn't be able to fight. Bang, the car was hit on the right side. Boom, there was a bump on the left. Boom, a car in front stopped head to head. Boom. Chi lived, surrounded by 4 cars, he couldn't move even if he wanted to. At this time, he let go and turned around to tear Chu Xia's hair. Unfortunately, before his hands touched the other party, I felt a strong force coming from my waist. After Zhou Mikang threw Xiao Binky out, he happened to see the blood on Chu Xia's hands. He leaned forward, grabbed Xiao Yuan's collar and pulled it up. Ah! The knife cut into the flesh. Xiao Yuan tore his heart lung-piercing shouts, but fortunately Zhou Hanliang opened the door from the side and grabbed Xiao Yuan, finally avoiding the fate of his decapitated body. Along the way, Zhou Mikang was really going crazy. Fortunately, Xiao Binky was unable to get a good car, so he stole a classic car from the commune that had been used for many years. As soon as he received the news, his comrades in the car company and comrades from the Public Security Bureau dispatched from all corners of the city. According to the clues provided by Yang Xiaoli, combined with the actual situation, he chose this path. Unexpectedly, he really guessed right. As for why he was so sure that it was this car, it was very simple. He asked the license plate number of this car from the commune on the road. In this day and age, it is so easy to remember a license plate number. Chu Xia was so shocked by all this that he lost his ability to speak, and it was not until the other party stepped over the driving seat and jumped to his side that he came back to his senses. Pulling up his wife's little hand to check it carefully, Joe Mikang finally let go of his heart and let out a long sigh of relief. It's quite capable. Chusya has black hair, shouldn't she be hugged and coaxed at this time?